Welcome back to North Sun Tabletop Games, and today we're going to be talking about the Cataclysm of Kang as we do our part 3 of our GM Prep Just the Fight series, where we are going to take a look at the adventure expansion and just cover the fights that happen, because there's a lot of information that's included in the Cataclysm of Kang adventure. All right, with that being said, let's see how we got to where we are. So it starts off with our heroes basically fighting against the mob. There is a restaurant in a local neighborhood that was set on fire. The heroes go to investigate. The Magia ends up attacking them, roughing up the neighborhood, causing all kinds of troubles. Our heroes help the folks at the restaurant set up base, come back later to do some additional investigations, try to get pushed out of the neighborhood. That eventually leads them to an old restaurant called Chronos. And while they're investigating, collaborating with the mob, it turns out that there is a Hydra cell involved. So the heroes fight Hydra. They go into the basement. The group is led by Madam Mask, and they find out that there's none other than a portal in the basement that goes to another universe, a separate Earth. So the heroes don't know it at that time. Once they stop Hydra and Madam Mask, shut everything down, Nick Fury congratulates them. They go about their business. And then that leads us to Chapter 2, Rank 3 heroes. This one is for Rank 2 heroes. Excuse me. And in this section that we covered in our part 2 of the series, the heroes are battling in Hell's Kitchen. The Wrecking Crew is the enemy. The Wrecking Crew starts causing all kinds of havoc, attacking fire stations, police stations, highways, hospitals, just causing mayhem throughout the city. That's the Wrecking Crew right there. Once you take down the Wrecking Crew, or at least attempt to take down the Wrecking Crew, the Federal Emergency Aid and Response Team arrives, known as FEAR. And because of the damage done in the city, FEAR sets up checkpoints. They've got tanks, building, soldiers. They're trying to keep the peace without letting Hell's Kitchen devolve any further. But little do our heroes know that FEAR is actually an undercover for more Hydra agents. So you start battling those Hydra agents. Baron Zemo has set up another portal in the convention center. The heroes may or may not survive that. But basically at the end of part 2, floods of villains and Hydra enemies are coming through the portal, attacking New York, trying to take over the city. That's where we leave off. So that brings us to part 3, which is chapter 4. The first chapter in this book is just an introduction. So we're basically in the rank 3 section of the adventure. It's called New York State of Mind. And the fights that are in this section, you have a map. There's 3 acts. Let's take a look at Act 1. Got some notes over here. All right, so when you're prepping for this part of the adventure, you basically have, it's in New York City. So the primary location is going to be the Baxter building, which is the Fantastic Four headquarters. And you have battles that occur on the roof and in the sub-basement. It's for rank 3 heroes. And the main threat is Arnim, Zola, and Taskmaster in Chapter 1 are trying to break into the Baxter building to acquire new technology. The Supremacy, which is kind of like the Avengers of the alternate universe, that's the overall name of the bad guys in this section. So part 1, you want to stop Arnim Zola from getting in through the roof of the building. Once you do that, Taskmaster is in the sub-basement, and you're going to be tasked to stop him. Now the threats outside the building, you've got 8 Hydra jetpack troopers. They've got 2 attack helicopters. The stats for these guys are in the adventure module on page 75. I will pop that up here on the screen in a second. Once I find that. And the Hydra soldiers have the typical layout that you can get from the core rulebook as far as their stats go. Nothing too crazy from that perspective. The jetpacks just give them flight. You use their regular stats, and then the attack helicopters gives you the health of the vehicles. They've got flight, sturdy, and basically elemental blast. You're gonna have two attack helicopters, 8 jetpack troopers, Arnim Zola on the roof. And Arnim Zola is he has a special keyword in the new book called Immortal. Since he's like an AI, he can jump from body to body. And basically, when you are fighting him, let's take a look at his stats real quick for when you're trying to run the battle with Zola. You have plenty of other enemies with the Hydra troopers to keep the heroes distracted and hopefully try to avoid any stun lock situations. Arnim Zola should be a pretty decent enemy. He's supposed to be smart. There's also Herbie that's on the roof, and Herbie is one of the robots from the Fantastic Four. He's kind of cowering in the corner. Give me 1 second here, figure out which book Zola is in. Thought he was in the main one, but maybe he is not. Let me see here. Here. All right, so you have Arnim Zola. He's rank 3. 90 health. He only has damage reduction for his focus. He doesn't have any real traits or tags that it really needs to call out, except most of his logic tests will get an edge. He has inventor, scientific expertise, and then his main power set, he's got telepathy, command, machine telepathy, telepathic blast, telepathic link. So he can command, he can try to get into the heroes' heads and force them to do things. If you take a look at his stats here, you can see that logic is by far his best ability. You're going to want to have him try to do his telepathic blast or machine telepathy, telepathic link, and command to kind of force the heroes to do things. He also has elemental control, elemental burst with electricity. Electricity, if you roll a fantastic success, that will stun. And I believe telepathic blast also stuns on a fantastic success. So lead into that. The elemental control would be his agility. His agility is only 1. So those blasts won't be as effective depending on how good or bad of a time your team is having trying to take him on. And that is Arnim Zola. He'll be on the roof. Meanwhile, in the basement, when you're trying to get down to the sub level, there are some traps. There's details about traps on page 79, some Claymore mines that Taskmaster has set up. He's going to have a couple of AIM technicians, and he's going to have a couple of AIM members in mech suits. So it's kind of a Hydra and AIM encounter. The scientists are trying to get information to help with the portals to get to the world. And the Hydra enforcers are the muscles. All right, now let me try to find Taskmaster. Taskmaster, I believe, is in the core book. We'll take a look at him really quick before we go to Act 2. All right, so Chapter 3 is there's enough information in the 3rd mission to actually kind of run a mini campaign, because these bad guys from the other universe are trying to take over New York. And they have a number of random encounters and things like that are listed in this book. I'll talk about the random encounters a little bit. I'll show that page. Let's see, where's Taskmaster? What am I doing? Okay, here he is. All right. Let me swap these out. So Taskmaster is in the core rule book. He's a rank 3. Pull him up real quick. Should be pretty easy to run. He has clone moves as his main power. It does take a standard action to do that. He's got bloodthirsty, so he will try to eliminate the heroes if they're knocked unconscious. It's the edge on his initiative. Based on his stat block, you'll see his highest is agility. So he will probably do better with using more of his ranged attacks, like his double tap or a snapshot. He's got -1 damage reduction, so he's a little bit tough. The clone moves will only work against non-superhuman abilities. So basically anything from martial arts, ranged, basic powers, and melee weapon powers he can clone. And it takes him 1 turn, a standard action to do the clone, and then after that he gets everybody's powers. So when he clones moves, he takes all the powers of the person that he's cloning that fall under those categories. So that is could be a fun power to deal with as your players are doing their attacks on somebody else, or the heroes. Maybe have Taskmaster see that from afar, do his clone moves power on his turn, and then follow up with them. Have him use their same moves against them in the future. Okay, that's it for Act 1 of this 3-part adventure. So, right, so you're in New York City. Nick Fury's going to have a meeting with you. He's going to send you to the Fantastic Four's building. You'll get there. Arnim Zola will be attacking. The only other thing it calls out in here for this fight is you could have 4 jet troopers start and then 4 at a building across the street. So half of them come in later once the battle has already started. They kind of ambush the heroes. Pretty straightforward. And just use the tactics. And since there's a lot of enemies in this combat, it's going to be pretty easy for you to try to protect the main villain from getting hit by having the minions kind of run distractions. All right, after that happens, you stop him, you go back to your headquarters, whatever that may be. You start Act 2. So Act 2 is really going to be about there are these monuments that Hydra is setting up from another universe that have shields around them that they're going to be using to try to cordon off the city. So you've got monuments at different areas: LaGuardia, Long Beach, Coney Island, Prince Bay Lighthouse, and the Untermeyer Garden Conservatory. It's asked that you have your 2 of the 5 monuments is what's suggested for your heroes to fight. So 2 of 5, they have impenetrable force fields around them that may or may not be activated. If the monument is destroyed, it will explode like a small nuclear device. The heroes don't know that at first, but they're mainly going to be trying to stop the force fields from getting put up around the monument. The closest monument is going to be the one that the Fenris twins go to, which is at LaGuardia Airport. That's going to be the one that's closest to the Baxter building. And then after that, there's a map of the city, and you can pick and choose which one you want your players to check out. And then story-wise, other heroes in the city that may be helping Nick Fury or part of the Avengers are simultaneously trying to attack these. That's one way to run it. Or like I said, you could run a really long campaign with it and have it be over a period of time where New York is just under threat and the heroes eventually try to take all of them out. Let's talk about the first one though. So at LaGuardia, the main bad guys there are the Fenris twins, and they have a squad of AIM and Hydra troopers. It's usually about 8 Hydra per squad. You can adjust those numbers based on your player count. And let me see if I can get the Fenris twins pulled up. And those are going to be the children of Baron von Strucker. I believe I am saying that correctly. And they have a power where they have to be close together. I want to say kind of like North Star and his sister. Let me see. Black Knight Fenris twins. So these guys are ranked 3. 60 and 90, it's 2 of them. Abrasive, battle ready, determination. So if you knock out their focus, they don't get trouble or anything like that. No other main power traits or tags to call out. Let's see. Situational awareness, so they will get an edge on the initiative roll. Based on their stats, they're at range is where they're going to have the best chance of attacking. They've got elemental control energy for their powers. They've got ranged weapons, double tap, point blank. You'll notice for all their elemental powers, they have adjacent. So in order to do this, you're kind of like the Wonder Twins. They have to kind of be close together or holding hands or next to each other to use their energy blast. But they're basically the same character, and it's 2 of them, even though there's 1 health block. So you want to keep that in mind. Looks like they're good to be at ranged. You want to keep them together to use your energy blast, and you just run them as taunting. It has a little bit about their personalities here. They're committed fascists. They do terrible things. They're your standard bad guys with powers. You pair them up with the Hydra soldiers. Whether or not they're in or out of the force field can be up to you. But all the Hydra soldiers will have special, comms or devices sewn into their clothes that lets them pass through the force field without trouble. The force field has about 1 million health, it says. Ideally, you're not meant to have the players destroy them. If they can't get into the monuments, they just can't. It gets dealt with later. So some monuments they'll be able to stop. Others they won't. In the descriptions for the different monuments, sometimes it says you can roll a d6 to see if the force field is already up or not. If they've already fought and defeated Arnim Zola, when they go to Coney Island, Arnim Zola can come back because he's functionally immortal. His essence, his mind of the AI just goes into a different body. Let's see. Prince Bay's Lighthouse has a special Hydra agent, Robert, who the force field is up, and he kind of talks to them about surrendering or how they can't get through. And then a couple of these places, like let's see, Coney Island and the Gardens, they have random minor or random major villain. Let's talk about that. And that's what you do for Act 2. Act 2, you're trying to take down the monuments. Ideally, 2 monuments for your group, 2 out of the 5. There is no reason why you can't have them do all the monuments or just 1, depending on how the fight goes. But they're trying to take down these monuments because once these shields are up across New York, they'll spread out, they'll cover the whole city, and nobody will be able to get in and out. Now, in the book, even though we're in Act 3, see, we go to, there is a map. I'll just show you the map real quick. The map, I think, is in the previous, no, it's here. Yeah, so this is the map. It has these little indicators, and that's where the Baxter building is, the Brooklyn Bridge. All the locations where the monuments are represented here. So you can kind of use these to reference where the heroes are and where they need to get to in the city. Now, the last part, and the reason why this middle chapter is so big, as you're running through the streets of New York, it has a random minor and major villain chart that you can run into, and random allies that you can run into. And it is up to you, even for those 2 fights and for 2 of those monuments, they suggest using some of the random guys. I am not going to go into the random guys for this video. I'll show you the list. They have Hawkeye, Titania, Echo, Bullseye, Elektra, Winter Soldier, And then for the minor villains, for the major ones, they've got Crossbones, Black Widow, Silk, Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Abomination. But if you are interested in seeing maybe a video on the minor or the major villains, go ahead and hit that like button, throw like a minor or major in the comments, and then we'll see. But I could always have a video and go through a little bit of these guys in depth, just some high level tips for maybe running them. And they also have little sections below, which kind of gives you a breakdown of what those villains might be doing for each random encounter. But for the purpose of this video, we are not going to go into that right now. We're just going to stick to the basic plot story moving forward fights. But that is there. Okay, and last but not least is Act 3. Act 3 is pretty straightforward. You're back to Hell's Kitchen in the Convention Center from the beginning of the game. So the last monument, which is really the first monument, is at the Convention Center. That's the one that's most powerful. The threats for that encounter would be Hydra again. There's squads all around the building. Helicopters, tanks, whatever you can think of. It can be a villain from the random villain charts. So again, if you guys want to see just a high level breakdown or flip through of those villains, let me know in the comments. Or it also recommends if some of the battles went sideways, like if Zola got away, if Taskmaster got away, if the Wrecking Crew from Part 2 is free, or maybe even Baron Zemo from the building is also an option. So basically it's your pick of guarding the last monument. So the goal, oh, that's what I erased. I used to have goal on here. The goal is the last monument. In the convention center, it is going to be shielded. So the shield is already up. So if the heroes haven't gained enough information from the other fight to get Hydra uniforms or figure out the transponder on the uniforms, they need that to get through the shields. And the goal is going to be you have a small strike team, gets through the shields, takes out the last monument while Nick Fury runs a distraction with other superheroes in the area to keep Hydra busy. And then you'd have your final fight in this location. And then whether you succeed or fail will be up to how the players do. And that's basically how Chapter 3 goes. I keep calling it Chapter 3, even though it's Chapter 4. The official chapter is New York State of Mind. Once you get through that, you'll be ready for the next mission. All right, so I think that is going to wrap up our quick overview of just the fights. Again, it's a 3-plot act. Part 1, save the stuff at the Baxter building. Don't let Hydra get control of that. Part 2, take out the monuments that they're setting up around the city as they start pouring out across the city. And then Part 3, taking down the main monument that shields the convention center from attack. And there's random tables in here. There's stats for the different Hydra drones, the AIM mech suits, all those items are in here. It has a lot of different options. It's got some Baxter building maps. Got some references for side missions that you can do. Aftermath, what should happen if you win or you lose. Side stories. So that the New York State of Mind chapter, like I said, you could run kind of a whole campaign of like recapturing New York. They have enough information in here once you parse through it to really do whatever you want with it, to take a different format and run the mission and enjoy it. Okay. I think that's going to be it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. That's how I know that you'd like to see more, and appreciate all the subscribers we've gotten on the channel so far. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.